High Admiral Zextal of the Galactic Council Evaluation Fleet stood at his command podium, his crystalline skin reflecting the soft blue light of the bridge as he studied the approaching human vessel with mounting confusion. The ship before him defied every principle of advanced spacefaring design that the Council had established over 50,000 years of interstellar civilization. The human vessel, designated Aegis Pioneer, looked more like an ancient sea vessel than a proper starship. Its hull was rough and angular, covered in what appeared to be primitive heat-dissipating panels rather than the expected quantum field generators. No energy shields were detected, no gravitic deflectors, not even basic particle screens, just thick plates of what their scanners identified as mundane titanium-carbon composite. Surely this must be some kind of joke, Zextal muttered, his translator converting his crystalline resonances into standard council speech. They cannot expect to be taken seriously with such primitive engineering. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Nera, fluttered her energy wings in agreement. The humans claim this is their most advanced deep space vessel, High Admiral. They call it a proof of concept for their antimatter pulse drive. Zextal's crystalline form vibrated with what passed for laughter among his species. Antimatter pulse drive. The concept was absurd. Every spacefaring race knew that antimatter was far too unstable for direct propulsion. The energy release had to be carefully mediated through quantum containment fields and converted to gravitic thrust. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let us hear what these primitives have to say for themselves." The main viewscreen shimmed to life, revealing the human captain. She was a middle-aged woman with dark skin and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. Captain Sarah Martins of the HFY Pioneer met Zextal's gaze without flinching, something few species could manage when facing a crystalline entity. "High Admiral," she nodded respectfully. "Welcome to Sol System. We're honored to demonstrate humanity's first faster-than-light vessel to the Galactic Council." "Captain Martinez." Zextal's tone was carefully diplomatic, though tinged with condescension. "While we appreciate your enthusiasm, surely you must realize this vessel falls far below Council standards for deep space certification. I see no quantum field generators, no gravitic systems, not even basic shield emitters. How do you expect to achieve FTL travel with such primitive technology?" Martinez's smile never wavered. "With respect, High Admiral, humanity has taken a different approach. We found that sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant. Would you care for a demonstration?" Before Zextal could respond, his tactical officer cut in with alarm. "High Admiral, the human vessel, it's doing something impossible." The Pioneer's hull had begun to glow with a soft purple light. Where most ships would have their quantum drive sections, the human vessel instead had what looked like a series of massive rings, now beginning to spin and pulse with growing energy. "Impossible," Naira whispered. "They're actually containing raw antimatter reactions without quantum fields." "But how?" "The thing about humanity," Martine said calmly as her ship's systems powered up, "is that we tend to think outside established parameters. You've spent millennia perfecting quantum field technology. We decided to see what would happen if we went in the opposite direction, using gravity itself to contain and direct antimatter annihilation. Simple, reliable, and incredibly efficient." The Pioneer's rings were spinning faster now, creating what the Council ship's sensors reported as a cascading series of micro-singularities. Artificial gravity wells that appeared and collapsed in milliseconds, each one perfectly controlled to channel the energy of antimatter annihilation. Gravitational manipulation without quantum fields. Zextal's crystalline form shimmered with disbelief. That's not possible." "Watch closely," Martins suggested. "You might want to have your sensors at maximum resolution for this part." The Pioneer's rings reached their peak rotation. The purple glow intensified, and suddenly space itself seemed to ripple around the human vessel. Before the Council fleet's astonished observers, the seemingly primitive ship simply vanished. It reappeared an instant later, already decelerating on the other side of Jupiter. 4 astronomical units in under 2 seconds. Martinez's voice came through clearly despite the impossible distance. That's just a fraction of our full capability. The pulse drive creates a series of gravitational corridors through spacetime. No quantum fields needed, just precise gravity control and careful timing. Zextal stood in stunned silence, his crystalline form barely maintaining coherence as he processed what he'd just witnessed. These humans, these supposed primitives, had completely circumvented 50,000 years of established science. They hadn't built a crude imitation of council technology. They'd created something entirely new. Perhaps, he said finally, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of his crystalline speech, the council's evaluation criteria may need updating. Martinez's smile widened just slightly. That's very open-minded of you, High Admiral. Now, would you like to see what else our primitive ship can do? As the Pioneer began powering up for another demonstration, Zextal couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy's balance of power had just shifted dramatically. The humans hadn't just thought outside the box. They'd ignored the box entirely and built something that no one in 50 millennia had even considered possible. The laughter had died in his crystalline resonance. Somehow, he suspected this was only the beginning of humanity's surprises. 6 months after the Pioneers' demonstration, the Galactic Council's Military Oversight Committee found itself facing an unprecedented situation. The humans had submitted designs for their first fleet of deep space vessels, and the council chamber was filled with barely contained amusement. Grand Admiral Kylax, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical shell, gestured at the holographic display with obvious disdain. The human ships looked like they'd been designed by children. Simple cylindrical shapes with those peculiar rings, no sleek curves or elegant quantum arrays in sight. They want to build 50 of these tubes. Kylax's energy form flickered with mirth, even after we shared our basic shield technology with them. Director Vexna, a hyper-intelligent collective of gaseous organisms, swirled thoughtfully in their containment sphere. The humans claimed their design philosophy prioritizes robust simplicity over what they call unnecessary complexity. They've rejected 90% of our technological assistance offers. The committee chamber erupted in titters and the equivalent of laughter from various species. Only Ambassador Naira, recently promoted after her experience with the Pioneer, remained silent, her energy wings twitching with unease. High Council, she ventured carefully, perhaps we should consider that they're clearly technological primitives who got lucky with one innovative drive system, interrupted Councillor Zix, his crystalline form vibrating with amusement. Let them build their fleet of tubes. They'll learn the hard way why every advanced civilization uses quantum technology. But Naira had seen something in her detailed analysis of the human designs that troubled her. The ship's apparent simplicity masked layers of innovation that her fellow council members were too amused to notice. The humans weren't just ignoring conventional technology. They were quietly revolutionizing space warfare itself. Meanwhile, at the Neptune shipyards, Captain Martinez stood beside Fleet Admiral Chen as they watched construction robots assembling the first of humanity's new warships. The massive vessel's hull was indeed simple, but that simplicity hid secrets that would change the galaxy forever. The council approved our designs, Martins noted with a slight smile. They think we're idiots. Admiral Chen nodded, her eyes tracking the installation of what appeared to be primitive armor plating, but was actually something far more sophisticated. Good. Let them laugh. How's the quantum ghost drive coming along? Ready for installation on all 50 ships. The council's so focused on our primitive antimatter pulse drive that they haven't even noticed the secondary systems we're installing. They still think we rejected their quantum technology because we couldn't understand it. The truth was far more interesting. Humanity hadn't rejected quantum technology out of ignorance. They'd rejected it because they'd already developed something better. Something that worked on principles the council races had never even theorized. The test results from the Ghost Drive are exceeding expectations, Martinez continued, pulling up a holographic display of her own. We can now phase an entire ship partially out of normal spacetime while maintaining full combat capability. The Council's quantum sensors will read nothing but empty space. Chen smiled grimly. And the other projects? The gravity lance is ready for testing. Instead of trying to penetrate enemy shields with conventional weapons, we're going to simply create a localized gravity well inside their ships. Their own shield systems will actually amplify the effect. Martinez paused, checking another data feed. The temporal wake generators are also showing promise. We can literally slow down time around enemy vessels while we operate at normal speed. And they think we're building primitive warships with nothing but thick armor and a fancy dry system. Chen shook her head. The Council races have spent so long perfecting their quantum technology that they've completely missed other paths of development. They don't even consider gravity manipulation without quantum fields possible, let alone temporal engineering. A massive ring section was being lifted into place on the ship before them. To Council observers, it would appear to be part of the antimatter pulse drive. In reality, it was a key component of the quantum ghost system, technology that operated on principles the Council would consider impossible. When will the first ship be ready for trials? Chen asked. The HSS Archimedes will be space-worthy in 3 weeks. We're calling this class of ships physics breakers, though officially they're registered with the Council as Deep Space Combat Vessels, Mark I. Chen nodded, watching as more primitive systems were installed in the growing vessel. The Council thinks we're building a laughingstock fleet. Let them laugh. In 6 months, we'll show them why humanity's approach to space warfare is going to revolutionize their understanding of physics itself. In her private quarters that evening, Martinez reviewed the classified reports from other human research facilities across the solar system. The fleet under construction was just the beginning. Humanity was developing technologies that the Council races couldn't even comprehend, not because they were stupid, but because 50,000 years of quantum engineering had given them technological tunnel vision. Sometimes the best way to advance wasn't to follow the established path, but to step off it entirely and find a new way forward. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Drachnid pirates never saw the human fleet coming. They couldn't have. According to every sensor system in their advanced warships, there was nothing but empty space around the colony they were preparing to raid. The Council's automated warning buoys had detected no ship movements in the sector. Even their quantum wake detectors showed no signs of faster-than-light travel. The first indication that something was wrong came when Commander Vexkar's flagship suddenly lost artificial gravity, then internal pressure, then life support, all without a single weapon being fired. Impossible. He snarled, his scaled hide turning pale as emergency systems failed one by one. We're under attack, but there's nothing out there. His tactical officer, desperately working to restore systems, froze as new data appeared on his screens. Sir, gravity distortions appearing all around us. Massive ones. But there's no source. Space rippled, and suddenly 5 human vessels phased into normal spacetime, surrounding the pirate fleet. Their simple cylindrical hulls gleamed dully in the starlight, those mysterious rings pulsing with purple energy. To the pirates' quantum sensors, the ship still barely registered, as if they were only partially present in reality. Captain Martinez's voice crackled through the pirates' comm systems, calm and professional. Drachnid vessels, this is the HSS Archimedes. Your ships are currently caught in overlapping temporal wake fields. From your perspective, this transmission will seem instant. For us, we've had several minutes to precisely target every critical system in your fleet. Vexkar's secondary tactical display told the horrifying truth. Somehow, the human ships had created localized time distortions throughout his fleet. In the areas affected, time was passing so slowly that his crews couldn't even perceive the attack happening, let alone respond to it. Your shield generators have been selectively targeted by gravity lances, Martinez continued. The quantum fields you rely on have been turned against you. amplifying our gravity weapons rather than blocking them. You have precisely 30 seconds to power down your weapons and engines before we increase the gravitational forces beyond your hull's structural limits. In his 50 years of piracy, Vexkar had never encountered anything like this. The humans weren't just fighting differently. They were operating on principles of physics he'd never known existed. His ship's quantum shields, the most advanced available even to council races, had proven worse than useless. "Stand down," he ordered, his voice shaking. "Stand down immediately." As his crew scrambled to comply, Vexkar noticed something even more disturbing. The human ships weren't maintaining their position with standard engines or quantum fields. Instead, they seemed to be manipulating the fabric of space-time itself, creating stable points in space through controlled gravity distortions. On the bridge of the Archimedes, Martinez watched the pirates surrender with satisfaction. All ships maintain temporal wake fields but begin reducing gravity lance intensity. Let's not crush them before the council authorities arrive. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared on her command deck. "Excellent work, Captain. How did the new systems perform?" "Better than expected, Admiral. The quantum ghost drive kept us completely undetectable until we chose to reveal ourselves. The temporal wake generators allowed us to effectively freeze their ships in time while we positioned our gravity lenses. And most importantly," she smiled slightly, "the Council's quantum detection grid never even noticed we were here." "Perfect." Chen's hologram nodded approvingly. "The Council races need to understand that their technological monopoly is over. Humanity isn't just catching up. We're rewriting the rules of space warfare entirely." Martinez's tactical officer interrupted with new data. "Captain, Council response fleet incoming. Their quantum wake suggests at least 3 heavy cruisers." "Good." Martinez straightened her uniform. "Let them see what their primitive humans have accomplished. Maintain quantum ghost fields at minimal power, just enough to keep our secondary systems hidden. Let's not reveal all our capabilities at once." The Council ships emerged from quantum space to find the infamous Drachnid pirate fleet already disabled and under human control. Their sensors showed nothing but those simple cylindrical hulls with their ring systems, no sign of the revolutionary space-time manipulation technology that had made the victory possible. As Martinez prepared to greet the Council commander, she reflected on humanity's journey to this point. The Council races had spent 50 millennia perfecting one approach to space technology. Humanity had taken one look at their quantum-based systems and asked, what if we tried something completely different? The answer to that question was now changing the galaxy forever. The Council would soon learn that humanity's primitive approach to space warfare was anything but simple, and this demonstration was just the beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's High Command was chaos. Holographic displays showed the aftermath of the Drachnid pirate incident from every angle, while the most brilliant quantum physicists from a dozen species argued over what they'd witnessed. "It's not possible." Professor Zental's energy form pulsed with agitation. "You cannot simply create temporal distortions without quantum field generators. The energy requirements alone." "But they did it," interrupted Grand Admiral Kylax, no longer laughing at human technology. "And they did it with ships we dismissed as primitive. Ships we mocked." Ambassador Naira's energy wings crackled with vindication. "I warned you all. The humans weren't rejecting our technology out of ignorance. They were pursuing an entirely different path of scientific development." The debate was interrupted by urgent alerts from the sickness sector. A Drachnid battle fleet, apparently seeking revenge for their captured pirate brethren, had engaged 3 human vessels near a populated system. "Show us," ordered Kylax. The main display shifted to show real-time quantum sensor feeds from Council observation posts. What they witnessed would change their understanding of warfare forever. The Drachnid fleet, 20 ships strong and equipped with the latest quantum shield technology, had surrounded 3 human vessels, the HSS Archimedes, Newton, and Einstein. The humans appeared to be trapped. Then reality itself seemed to break. The human ship's ring systems pulsed with that now familiar purple energy. Suddenly, space around the Drachnid fleet began to twist and fold in impossible ways. Council scientists watched in shock as the humans literally bent the laws of physics. "They're creating localized space-time knots," whispered Professor Zental. "The fabric of space itself is being folded and manipulated." But how? The energy required to. "Look," Naira pointed at new sensor data. "They're not generating the energy themselves. They're harvesting it from quantum space itself." The human ships had created a series of overlapping gravity fields that drew energy directly from the quantum realm that Council ships used for FTL travel. The more the Drachnid ships powered up their quantum shields, the more energy they inadvertently fed into the human gravity weapons. "Brilliant," muttered Kylax. "Absolutely brilliant. They turned our own technological foundation against us." On the Archimedes Bridge, Captain Martinez coordinated the defense with cold efficiency. Newton maintained temporal wake fields around their port flank. Einstein, prepare gravity cascade sequence on my mark. The Drachnid fleet fired everything they had: quantum torpedoes, plasma beams, relativistic kinetic rounds. None of it reached the human ships. The weapons simply vanished into microscopic temporal distortions, emerging hours later in empty space. "Phase shift complete," reported Martinez's tactical officer. "Gravity cascade ready. Execute." The three human ships activated their systems simultaneously. The space around the Drachnid fleet literally folded in on itself, creating a cascade of gravitational distortions that their quantum shields amplified rather than blocked. Ships began to crumple as space-time compressed around them. "This is Captain Martinez to Drachnid fleet. Surrender now, or we will be forced to increase gravitational compression beyond your hull tolerance. You have 30 seconds. The Drachnid commander, watching his mighty fleet being crushed by forces he barely understood, didn't need 30 seconds to decide. Back in the council chamber, the observers sat in stunned silence. The humans hadn't just won. They'd revolutionized the very nature of space combat. Their primitive ships had turned quantum physics itself into a weapon. "We need to completely reassess our understanding of human technological capabilities," Kylax finally said. "Those simple-looking ships, they're not primitive at all. They're so advanced that we mistook them for basic technology because we couldn't comprehend what we were seeing." Professor Zental's energy form had dimmed with shock. "They're not using quantum fields because they found something better. Something we never even considered possible. They can manipulate space-time directly, harvest energy from quantum space, and create temporal distortions at will. And these are just their first-generation ships," Naira added quietly. "Imagine what else they're developing." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just caught up to Council technology. They'd leapfrogged it entirely, developing an entirely new branch of physics while the Council races remained locked into their quantum-based paradigm. As the Council leaders watched the human ships escort their captured opponents away, they realized the galaxy would never be the same. The era of quantum supremacy was over. The age of human physics had begun. 6 months after the Drachnid incident, the Great Halls of the Galactic Council's Science Academy hosted an unprecedented event. For the first time in 50,000 years, the fundamental principles of space travel and warfare were being rewritten. Captain Martinez stood at the presentation podium, facing an audience of the galaxy's greatest scientific minds. Behind her, the HSS Archimedes hung in orbit, its simple design now commanding respect rather than derision. "The quantum realm is just one layer of reality," Martinez explained, manipulating the holographic display to show the complex interactions between space, time, and gravity. Humanity asked a simple question: what if we could manipulate the underlying fabric of space-time directly? Professor Zental's energy form pulsed with excitement as he studied the equations. "You've developed a unified theory of quantum gravitational interaction, something we thought impossible without centuries more advancement in quantum technology. Because you were looking at it through the lens of quantum mechanics," Martinez smiled. We approached it from the opposite direction. Instead of trying to use quantum fields to affect gravity, we used gravity to affect quantum fields. The display shifted to show the operating principles of the human ship's ring systems. What the Council had dismissed as primitive antimatter drives were actually incredibly sophisticated space-time manipulation devices. The antimatter pulse drive was just the beginning. Martinez continued. By creating precisely controlled gravity wells, we can harvest energy directly from quantum space. The more quantum energy is present, say, from shield systems or weapons, the more power we can draw. Grand Admiral Kylax, now head of the Council's Joint Technology Integration Committee, leaned forward, and the temporal effects. The ability to create localized time distortions. A natural extension of gravity manipulation. Einstein, one of our early physicists, theorized that gravity and time are intrinsically linked. Once we learned to control one, controlling the other became possible. The audience murmured as Martinez displayed the next set of equations. They showed how human ships could create temporal bubbles, where time flowed differently, allowing them to outmaneuver quantum-based weapons and defenses. But your most impressive achievement, interrupted Professor Zental, is the quantum ghost drive. You found a way to partially phase ships out of normal space-time while maintaining full functionality. Even now, our sensors can barely detect your vessels. Martinez nodded. By existing partially outside normal space-time, we can observe and interact with reality while remaining virtually undetectable. It's not invisibility. It's selective interaction with physical laws themselves. Admiral Chen, who had been quietly observing from the back of the hall, stepped forward. Humanity is prepared to share this technology with the Council races, not because we seek dominance, but because we believe diversity of thought drives innovation. We found a new path forward by questioning established principles. Imagine what we might discover together. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. For millennia, the Council races had refined and perfected their quantum technology, creating ever more powerful shields, weapons, and drives. Humanity had simply stepped back, looked at the problem differently, and found an entirely new solution. We proposed the establishment of a Joint Physics Innovation Center, Chen continued, a place where Council quantum expertise can combine with human space-time manipulation technology, not to build better weapons, but to unlock new frontiers of scientific understanding. Kylax rose, his mechanical shell gleaming. The Council agrees. This marks the beginning of a new era in galactic science. Together, we will explore paths that neither of us could have discovered alone. Later, on the Archimedes observation deck, Martinez and Chen watched the Council ships departing the Academy. Their quantum drives created beautiful distortions in space-time, distortions that human sensors could now track and analyze in entirely new ways. They're already adapting, Martinez noted. 3 Council ships have begun incorporating gravity manipulation into their quantum systems. Chen smiled. Good. The galaxy needed this wake-up call. 50,000 years of following one technological path led to stagnation. Sometimes the best way forward is to question everything you think you know. And humanity's role in all this. We'll keep innovating, keep questioning, keep looking for new solutions. That's what humans do best. We see problems differently. We ask what if when everyone else says impossible. The Archimedes ring systems pulsed softly, maintaining its partial phase state even in friendly space, a reminder that there were always new mysteries to explore, new laws of physics to understand, and new ways to push the boundaries of what was thought possible. As the last Council ships vanished into quantum space, Chen's smile widened. You know what the best part is. This is just the beginning. Wait until they see what we're working on next. Martinez raised an eyebrow. The Quantum Consciousness Project. Among others. After all, if we can manipulate space, time, and gravity, why not consciousness itself? The galaxy had changed forever. The age of quantum supremacy was over, replaced by an era of unprecedented innovation and discovery. And humanity, once dismissed as primitives, now stood at the forefront of a scientific revolution that would reshape the universe itself. All because they dared to ask, what if there's another way?